43% of Americans say they just don't feel motivated to work out at home.
Created live on Fireside.
Welcome to Athletic Definition, episode 143. I'm your host, Coach Ray Z, and today's episode is Did You Know Workout Facts? I'm always looking up different research on fitness and working out. Interesting. I kind of put a little note, and I've gathered so many of them that I just thought I should just do a whole episode and see how it goes, see if you guys are interested. Now, the first one, and I'm a little behind, but I'll try and put everything on the show notes in case you want to look up the origins of where I got this information. On some of them, I just didn't have time, so you're going to have to look it up yourself. The first one is the word gymnasium. The word gymnasium is derived from a Greek term for naked, which is pretty interesting to me. Back in the day, I always heard that the original Olympics, uh, they were nothing but men, and also they all competed naked. Well, it turns out just besides the Olympics, athletes would compete without their clothes as a tribute to the gods. That is pretty interesting and fascinating to me. I could see where people came up with a term look good naked. So that's one of the reasons they give to work out as far as motivation that I've seen on the memes going around. These next ones are going to just kind of be random, but I got this from an article called Odi.com. Actually, it's a website. And the first one is 16% of the population bought home equipment to work out during the pandemic. 49% of it already isn't being used. That is pretty sad. Nearly half of all workout equipment that was bought during the pandemic, which drove the prices up, especially on free weights, dumbbells, everything like that, and bicycles, like bikes for riding on the street and mountain biking. Man, did the prices really soar. And I'm not really sure that they've fully recovered. And then with the whole inflation, but if you bought that equipment, I would highly recommend using it. If you don't know how, which I know a lot of people may have equipment but still don't know how to use it, get a personal trainer. A lot of them could just do some customized workout plans for you, and at least you get some benefit besides using it as a coat hanger or as a coat hanger. All right. So moving on to the next one, and definitely need to look into this one. It says that the world has over 200,000 gyms worldwide. But in another article, I was reading that most of them are in the United States. Actually, what I read, it said that there's more gyms in the United States than McDonald's. There's another one. It says that 43% of Americans say they just don't feel motivated to work out at home. I understand the pandemic came and everybody wanted to work out, couldn't work out, and they figured, I'm going to do the next best thing and buy some equipment to work out at home. And you can tell by the Peloton sales of the bicycles that everything has been pretty much abandoned since we've gone back to the old ways now, especially since the president officially said it's over. The pandemic is over. So now we have all this workout equipment that isn't being used. And another article that I read about, technology and working out in the future, in case you want to check out that past episode, I have Fitness in the Future and Fitness in the Metaverse. You can check them out, available everywhere. Globally, fitness has more than 21 billion dollar industry. And I would assume that has to do with just vitamins, workout equipment, gyms, just a combination of it all. One had a lot of interesting facts. Check it out if you want to read. It had a lot of interesting facts. The next one is that, oh, here it is. I got my train of thought back. So if a bunch of Americans bought workout equipment, they're not using it. 43% of them are not motivated to work out at home. Yet another article I read saying that more Americans are doing like a hybrid, which is some personal training, which I'm not quite sure where that would take place, some training at the gym or going to the gym, and then some personal training or workouts at home. But according to this article, it's no workouts are going on at home. And now heart disease is biggest killer in United States, in the nation. And doctors say that regular exercise can help in a healthy heart, yet we also have more gyms than McDonald's. So it seems like it's just a matter of choice. People aren't motivated. I know sometimes there's so many different like fitness podcasts and fitness shows that it's all maybe a lot of the same old thing, same old thing. And that's why I'm trying to just show you some different creativity. Sometimes just talking about it or thinking about something you never thought of or just considering it might just spark that little seed where, oh, I want to work out, or I didn't know that. And you look into it more, and guess what? You're researching fitness, and then you're learning more about your body and how to take care of it and some of the origins, because some of these things, as you'll see as I talk about some the 25 biggest fitness fads of all time according to Men's Journal, you'll see some of them just completely don't work. And when it comes to people just trying to sell you equipment that doesn't work, or they know you won't use it, or even gyms know that you most likely won't go, um, it's just a big money grab instead of really trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? Why aren't people working out? All right, so let's see here. This one, I'm going to start on the Men's Journal one. And as I mentioned, it is the actually, no, there's one more here. One more here. All right. So in 1961, JFK launched the first fitness program to make the nation healthy. And this included physical fitness in schools. I remember seeing somewhere else that the first PE class, physical fitness in school, was actually in La Salle, California, or the name of the high school is La Salle, California. And you can actually YouTube it and see the black and white footage of them demonstrating what the program would consist of. So it's pretty interesting. And some of the youth back then, they were pretty strong because the workouts were not something that I could see a bunch of the today's youth doing at school. Check it out. Let me know what you think on the comments. All right. So I'm only going to go over the top seven, but they listed 25 total. So if you want to check it out, the Men's Journal. As I mentioned, I'll link the article to the show notes. Number one, they have the Bow Flex Home Gym. I remember seeing commercials for it, and if I remember correctly, it just kind of looked like a big bow and arrow. I think you just didn't really appeal to me. It was huge though, according to them. They gave it the number one ranking. So I guess I probably made a lot of money. I didn't actually look into how much it sold or anything like that, but I do remember it. Nothing I ever bought, or I can't actually even say that I ever tried a Bowflex machine. Maybe I'll look into getting one and let you guys know what I think, if it's efficient or not. This I do remember. It was a big fad. All the famous people wanted to work out with him, and people wait in line for hours to be able to train some Thai Bo with Billy Blanks. I believe he was somewhere in the San Fernando Valley, and people that gym I think I read is no longer there, but people used to wait hours to be able to actually train with him. He basically took like martial arts and did some cardio kickboxing with it and called it Taibo. Good for him. Great marketing. I see him pretty much every year now at the fitness expos that they have here in California. I think they have Orange County, Los Angeles, and I think the last one is in San Jose. I've been to Orange County. I competed in the jiu-jitsu tournament for the Gracies there. And then I've been prior to competing for the Gracie's tournaments as well in the one in Los Angeles. I also just would go just to meet different. It's a good mix of from, geez, they would have and still have UFC fighters, top power lifters, Muay Thai fighting, just a little mix of everything. And if this is your first time watching, welcome. I am Coach Ray Z, and I just love working out different types of sports and workouts. So to me, it's like a perfect little place to go and just meet different people in different categories that keep me motivated and inspired to keep working out. So number three, and this is one that I referred to earlier. Number three is called the vibrating belt, and this is in the 1960s. It was very popular. I think they said it was the most popular trend of the decade. And guess what? It did absolutely nothing. It didn't help you reduce any sort of fat. It didn't help you lose weight. It didn't help tone or firm or anything like that. All it did was help shake your body. And unfortunately, I think there's two companies now that are trying to make it come back. I'm sure there's some people that bought it, but I recommend if it didn't work back then, and we've had so many over 40 years to figure out if it works or not. If it didn't work back then, it's not going to work now. You could definitely find something that would be more efficient. Number four, they have Body by Jake, and Body by Jake was he was like on infomercials all the time. Infomercials were huge back in the day before really social media, and I'm not actually sure if he sold his workout programs or it could have been a combination. I think later on he came up with fitness products. Basically, he just threw the name Body by Jake, and he was all over. He was all over. I'm sure he made a lot of money. I don't really remember, like I said, specifically if it was like more than one workout equipment or one workout program, but he was all over TV, made good marketing, brilliant way to get known through the infomercials. Back then, it cost them quite a bit of money, but that's all that would be on TV after a certain amount of time, late night. Then number five is the Thigh Master, and that was displayed by Suzanne Summers, who was an actress, and she used to come out on Three's Company. From since it came out, it's been sold, I think, at 1995, and she said last she checked, they sold over $10 million worth of the Thigh Master, and she said they're probably closer to 15 million. So at 1995, you do the math. She has made a lot of money, and I think it's probably one of the best selling, all time selling fitness products out there. As far as if it works, I never tried it, so I don't know if you ever tried it. Leave a comment. I would love to find out if you think it worked, if it's held up since its debut, when you bought it. Just let me know all the nitty gritty. Number six is also in the 80s. That this was a Jane Fonda workout videos, and she actually just killed it because the whole type of anaerobic workout. I think it was like in the mid 50s. A doctor kind of came up with a concept, but it didn't really catch on until the 80s. And considering back in 1982, only 2% of homes had VCRs. And she ended up selling from her original 23 videos, have sold over 17 million copies. So she dominated it, the industry. She got really well known. And when you think about it, most people, I remember VCRs were like thousands of dollars, and then later on they started dropping down. So we didn't have a VCR till way later, and I remember just watching movies on it. Never did the whole workout thing on VCR, but man, she definitely was a innovator in marketing for the time, and with 17 million copies sold, or that's a lot right there. And then number seven, they have the 8 minute workout ab, which was also in the 80s. Another great marketing as far as infomercial. I actually rewatched the whole 8 minute workout on YouTube. You can find it for free. And to think just the marketing of doing 8 minute abs, because people always complain there's not enough time to work out, not enough time. So you can actually they want you to do these ab workouts every day. But in reality, if you only were to do those 8 minute abs and do nothing else, because there's just not one thing that's going to make you all fit and healthy. It's always a combination of things. I've been reading studies of just if people do clean eating but don't work out, or just do working out but don't do clean eating, and you're always going to get the best results with a good combination of both, not just one. If you The 8 minutes abs was a great marketing gimmick, made a lot of money, and I no hate there at all. So then I kind of start looking into, at one point, what was the first kind of like health food store. I found that the first one was in 1869. It is called Martindale's, and it was known as the first food health store in United States. I believe it's still open to this day, and they were doing juicing back in the day before anything was mainstream. Then I was looking up, well, where was the first gyms established? Because I'm aware of Jack LaLanne and his contribution to gyms. And what I found here, it says, well, first it said, I think the Persians, and I didn't have time to look into it further, but it said that they established the first gym. And then it says Kleins and Volker established the first gym in London back in 1825. And then it says that a Dr. Charles Beck, a German immigrant, established the first gym in United States. I don't, it says gymnasium. I wonder what, I'm going to look into it further. I wonder what type of gym it was. Was it like gymnastics, with strength and conditioning? Since everything didn't seem to get known till later, I'm fascinated to see what type of workouts they were doing back then. Then the first treadmill was patented in 1913. And then in 1952, they did the first motorized treadmill. So about 60 years after the first one came out. So I would love to see which is the common one that pretty much everybody uses now. And I'd love to see how much difficult the original one was to once they added a motor. Overall, I'm not a treadmill person. I'd rather go outside and work out, go for a run than a treadmill. The only times I do a treadmill is, well, now I don't have a gym membership, but when I did is if there was a fire living in California, Southern California, there's always fires in the summertime, bad air quality. I try not to run in bad air quality or switch my workouts around when there's fires, but that's the only time. And then besides that, I know they're really good for intervals if you're trying to do some speed training. But me personally, I'd rather do that on a track a little bit differently. And then in 1871, William Curtis introduced the first rowing machine. And I saw a picture of it, and it just doesn't look as fancy as the ones now, but basically it's the same concept of uh, like you'd be rowing on a boat. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I'll link the article if you want to take a look at that. So then I started thinking, when did the first scale come out? And I found the answer to that. Well, a lot they use scales to weigh food and different things, and the first ones were really really large. But then I kind of wanted to know when people started just more of the personal scale. Was it a marketing gimmick, or was it because people were really interested in fitness? The origins that I found here back to the 1500s, and it was a group of Italian scientists that included Galileo, and they were obsessed with measuring almost everything around them to understand themselves better. And so basically, you could call them like the first trackers. But then later on, to me, what I would say made it go mainstream is basically when doctors started recommending that or suggesting you should weigh yourself to keep track. So, from what I discovered or what I found is in 1942, the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, aka MetLife, they of course want to make money like everybody, every other company. That's their goal, make money. So they start collecting all this data from United States and Canada, and because of that, they came up with a desirable height and weight chart. And in roughly the 1950s, that's when doctors began suggesting that their patients weigh themselves. So, weight, as far as mainstream in America, where you weigh yourself, has to do with MetLife. And then they gave that chart to the doctors, where you can find it online and you'll see it on the show notes. And roughly in about 1950s, that's when doctors started recommending for people to weigh themselves. And then I am a huge runner, in case you don't know. I've completed 57 marathons, including 3 marathons in 3 days, running around Lake Tahoe. I've done back to back marathons, trying to reach 100. And then after I hit 100, I'm trying to hit 50 marathons in 50 states. So back in the day, I saw a movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but it has to do with Prefontaine. He was a runner from Oregon, and he really wanted to, I believe, qualify for the Olympics. He would always just go from the beginning of the race, balls out, didn't want to slow down. And his coach, I think his name is Bill Bauer. I think that's his name. I could be mistaken. He would always tell him kind of take it easy in the beginning, speed up. And he ended up speeding up and he wouldn't listen to him. Finally, when he listened to him, he ended up qualifying for the Olympic trials, which was like his dream. And then there was a car accident. I believe he ended up getting killed. Well, he ended up being one of the co-founders of the Nike Cortez, which is the first track shoe in the United States, and that was back in 1972. So this whole time I kind of thought, oh, Nike Cortez is the first running shoe, but they're very specific on different articles that I found calling it the first track shoe. So there was running shoes before the Nike Cortez, but the Nike Cortez, because of its popularity, as far as it came out on, say, Forrest Gump, and even before that, Farrah Fawcett was riding in it on a skateboard, and it came out on TV shows, and then it was very popular again amongst Latinos and African Americans in Southern California, and then because of that, it's one of the most well-known, recognized shoes around the world that isn't a basketball shoe. Like for example, Jordans or Kobe Bryant shoes that are very well known. So it's one of the more well-known Nike shoes. But then I found that there's a shoe called the Pimsole, and it had rubber bottoms in the canvas with spikes underneath. And you can trace those all the way back to the 1830s. So then I started thinking, well, I know track and field is one of the oldest sports, but did people back then only run on tracks? Because there probably wasn't as much pavement. I guess it depends on what country you're in, but I would find it difficult running with spikes nowadays, especially if you get to see a picture of them or a recreation of what they look like. I'd have to look into it more, but that was pretty interesting. And the last did you know workout fact is working at many different gyms, or when people say, hey, I want to train, and they tell you specifically, I want to lose weight here, or that's not possible. It's one of the bigger myths out there, like where you could target something. And when I worked at the gym, they they do training, of course, like every job, how to do your job, how to sell better. So part of what you do is you go and you take someone on a tour of the gym, and you want them to try out as much equipment as possible. And while you're doing that, you're getting to know them, and you want to find out what they're trying to work on specifically. And even though you can't specifically lose weight, like when you eat anything, let's say unhealthy, like let's say a cheeseburger, it doesn't specifically go to like right here where a lot of people point to their gut or the bottom of their abdomens. But you can't specifically target that. But people who work at the gym, because you work on commission, so I understand the whole thing. You're trying to feed your family or feed yourself. I understand. But you go and you give people tours and you tell them, hey, if you use this machine, it'll help target that specific place that you want. But in reality, you have to get in shape totally and completely. You can't just pick one specific place to lose weight. Yes, you can do more exercises for that specific region, but in reality, when you put on weight, like muscle mass, or when you lose weight, it's going to be overall, not just in one specific place. So that is one myth that even now people just keep. I think it has to do with just part of the whole system of fitness gyms and the atmosphere, and that a lot of people that don't go are intimidated or don't know exactly how to work out, and then part of the tour is convince you to sign up, and you know that they're not going to return. I should do a whole episode on the whole exposing the dirty tactics of gyms, because I worked, as I mentioned, that I worked at Ballytoe Fitness, LA Fitness. The only one I didn't work at is 24. I worked at UFC gym. I worked at a small MMA gym. and then just besides all my personal working out. So I know the industry, and there is a lot of good trainers and workout people at gyms. Don't get me wrong, but the pressure that they put on selling on them and some of the prices where you would think, oh, this trainer's making so much money, but really the majority of the money is going to the gym. So I think I am going to do a whole show on that. So to close out, as you know, I am a big time runner besides everything else. But if you'd like to run a marathon, run a 5K, run a half marathon, you can find me on all my social medias under Coach Razy, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Even if you're an experienced runner, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. I'm sure with all the cross training I do that I could show you a few exercises that'll target certain places that you're probably not working out or that you just never even thought about working out. And sometimes when you're done running, it's always these little like the bottom of the calf, or your Achilles, something that's sore that you probably never thought I could really train. So I started focusing a lot on my feet, my lower bottom, my soleus, my tibialis, and those are a lot of things that I don't see the running community doing yet. I'm also a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, certified kettlebell, and I cross train in a bunch of different things. So I took a mixture of ATG, which is a Ben Patrick knees over toes. I got to train with those guys for maybe about a year and a half, and then everything else. And I have a really extensive workout programs that I've designed, but then I customize them because we all have injuries. And I would say that most of us probably are not even as far as length. One part's probably shorter than the other from sitting down or from the way we sleep. And then also, maybe you're fast, but you think you plateaued, or you just think you plateaued. And it's most likely maybe because one leg is stronger than the other. And the more you can balance that out, the less chance of injury. And also, you might see a little bit of a difference that's what you wanted. It just depends on your level, but I usually try and work with beginners. But as I mentioned, if you're experienced, I'd be more than happy to talk to you as well. So thank you everybody for joining me. Tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning Pacific time zone, I will be back and I will be doing NFTs in sports. I'm going to try and see if I could buy my first NFT sports card. I've heard about them, Top Shots. Now I was looking around at DraftKings and I think they have them as well. I already started buying my NFT website, and I keep learning more and more about it. To me, it's interesting. I definitely see it as the future. And there's a lot of sports athletes doing it. So I'm huge on sports and fitness. So I try and keep everybody entertained as far as sometimes you just don't want to hear about your macros and uh, you know technical words about working out. Sometimes you want to hear about working out, but maybe not so hardcore. Some days I do go a little bit more hardcore, and then I always bring on guests as well. So I just try and mix it up, keep everybody entertained and inspired to keep working out, or keep maybe there's a fact that I read today that you're not quite sure or don't actually believe me. Well, I encourage you to go and look it up, and maybe you can find something else that I didn't know, or next time I have a show, come up and let me know. No, a fascinating fact. Some of our workout, I've always thought, was it just made to make money? And then when you look into some of the things, like body mass index, a lot of it was just based on white Caucasian males, which I'm a Latino. So just so many different things. So to me, I'm always been fascinated by it. I've been running for at least, geez, this will be my 17th year coming up, and just always would work out in my 20s, but not really. I think I was more partying and chasing the ladies. And then when I hit 30, that's really when it became just from a love hate thing to I would just always do it. And now through injuries that I've gotten, stitches from jujitsu, or just back on July 4th, just going for a walk, I got bit by a dog. And I've always just try and share my experiences. That way, maybe someone could avoid being bit by a dog, or know what to do the next time they get bit by a dog, or know what to do when you get stitches, or any other experience that I've had. from playing in basketball tournaments to dealing with the anxiety of preparation for a sport. So I think I hope you all enjoyed it. As I mentioned, tomorrow I'll be doing two shows. So the first one is NFT in sports. That'll be at 8:15 in the morning. And the second one, I'll probably move it up a little bit, but that is called Athletic Definition Sports and Fitness News, where I just cover all new things. I can tell you I'll be talking about the Apple Ultra Watch, which has a lot of new features, and then also pretty much what's been going on as far as in the jiu-jitsu world and a lot of the topics that you don't see on ESPN, as well as fitness trends. And the last thing is, I don't really cover football too much on that. That is because I have another show here on Fireside, exclusively on Fireside, called The Football Examiner. It's already available. I'm recapping the NFL for for week two, and letting you know who wins. Been playing fantasy football for over 20 years. And when I was younger, I worked in a casino as a sports bookie. I know I've had a lot of jobs, huh? But I worked as a sports bookie in a casino, and I would just basically take people's bets. And because of just my love of football, I'm like, I want to do a whole show on football. So I started it last year. This is the second year doing it. It's a participation show. You're more than welcome. Come up and let me know your picks, anything like that. Cover a little bit of fantasy and some point spreads. So that's a little bit about me. If you want to be able to stay tuned with all my shows, be sure to click on my profile here on Fireside. And until tomorrow, this has been Athletic Definition, episode 143. My name is Coach Ray Z, and I'm out.